We have a huge NHL trade to discuss. The Minnesota Wild have traded Kevin Fiala to LA. We'll discuss the return to the Wild and what this means for both teams coming up next. Back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a pretty significant trade to discuss here tonight between the Minnesota Wild and the Los Angeles Kings. We know that Kevin Fiala of the Wild is very likely to be traded somewhere around the time of the NHL draft. While they're not wasting any time, they apparently had a lot of teams making offers, and they've settled on trading him to the Los Angeles Kings. The return to the Minnesota Wild is a first-round pick in this year's 2022 NHL draft, which is 19th overall for the LA Kings, and they get young prospect defenseman Brock Fader. The defensive prospect here is a really solid right-shot defenseman, has a lot of great qualities. The Wild could certainly use a really good right-shot defenseman prospect, so that's a really good-looking player there to help with them. Of course, we don't know what they'll get on their first round pick. That's kind of difficult to say. There's a lot of decent prospects that should go somewhere in that 10 to 20 range. So it's difficult exactly to say where they're going to go. In combination of the Zach Parise and Ryan Suter buyouts, the Wild are really going to be in a real tough cap situation in the next couple of years, and they really couldn't afford to re-sign Fiala, who was a restricted free agent. So that basically was what led to this trade. We know that the contentious negotiations last year also played a role in this, where they ultimately settled on a one-year deal. It was not looking like they were going to come to terms, that he might even miss time at the beginning of the NHL season. Like, things did not go well between Guerin and Fiala's camp, and especially after they had already gone the route of those buyouts, they knew they were going to be in tough for a longer term cap situation. And of course, they had already signed Kirill Kaprizov to a mega long-term deal, which kind of ate up a lot of room as well. We had heard earlier in the day that the Kings, Devils, and Senators were amongst the teams in the mix down to the wire here, possibly acquiring Fiala. LA emerges as the victor here in this particular case, and they've signed him to a long-term contract extension as well. He gets a 7-year deal at $7.875 million. So that's a lot of money for Fiala in LA. He gets $16 million worth of signing bonuses over the course of that contract. He also gets a full no-move clause for years 2, 3, and 4. Years 5, 6, and 7, it drops down to a modified no-trade clause. So a little bit less protection, but still, the earliest he's eligible for any kind of trade protection would be in year 2 of this contract. You have to have basically be qualified to be a UFA, so 7 years or 27 years of age. So that'll be that. In year 1, there wouldn't be any trade protection here for Fiala. So certainly this is a pretty significant deal. We knew LA was likely going after another top 6 forward. I'm a little surprised it wasn't done in free agency, but they do have lots of prospects that will likely, they can't have them all be members of the LA Kings. There's just way too many good ones that are bound to be NHL players. So from what we're hearing, the LA Kings are not necessarily done wheeling and dealing. So we'll see what else Rob Blake and company has up their sleeves. Let me know your thoughts on this Kevin Fiala trade to the Los Angeles Kings. Is this a good fit in LA? What do you think of the contract? Did the Wild get a good enough return? I have to think that the part of this might be why he ended up in LA instead of New Jersey or Ottawa. Might be his willingness to sign that long-term extension. I don't know that New Jersey or Ottawa would want to quite go to that much money on a long-term deal, and that very well might be part of this as well, because I would think that they could have easily matched that trade package, especially where they have higher picks in the draft this year. That would be worth more, and they have several prospects that would be equivalent or better to what the Wild actually got here. So to me, I think this is a case of Fiala maybe using his leverage a little bit to where he would sign, and dictating that LA might have been his preferred destination. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.